Good evening. Welcome to this public hearing of the Merrimack School Board this Monday evening, December 7th, 2015, to accept or expend gifts or grants over $5,000. We're very fortunate this evening to be considering two gifts, each in the amount of $10,000 to the school district. This public hearing is a chance for the public to hear and provide comment on the two gifts in question, and as well for the school board to ask questions. Subsequent to the public hearing, during our normal school board meeting under agenda item number 5, the board will respond to the acceptance of these gifts. So the first gift is a gift of $10,000 from Best Buy to Merrimack High School, in particular to the First Robotics Club or team. And I would invite to the table Mr. Peter Bergeron, Assistant Principal at Merrimack High School, and the advisors for First Robotics, Ms. Marge and Mr. Chris Petrovic. There's other chair, Peter, there's a chair right over there.
Well, I am certainly pleased to be here this evening. I'd like to thank all of you for your invitation for us to speak about our $10,000 grant that we received from the Best Buy Foundation. This year, February 15th of 2000, this year, we also came in front of the board and we talked about the grant that we received from the Best Buy Foundation in the amount for $9,000. But I think the two people who should really be talking about this grant, who have been with the U.S. First program for many years at Merrimack High School, is our advisors, Chris and Marge Petrovic. So I'm going to let them talk to you about this grant and what we'll be using the money for, if we can secure that grant, and then we will certainly entertain any questions afterwards. So Chris and Marge.
Thanks for having thanks for having us tonight. I don't know where to begin with regard to the Best Buy grant. It's outstanding that we were getting so much support from them. They came and visited with us, and when they came in, we were in the midst of training, and they just saw 40 kids all working hard, working with the mentors, getting the job done, thoroughly engaged. And like last year, what I have in my mind about what to do with the money, I want to buy equipment that's going to be lasting, like we did last year. We bought machine tools, and we want to continue doing that, acquiring hard goods that are going to be around for a while and leave a lasting memory of what Best Buy was able to accomplish, or what we were able to accomplish with their support. And if we need to, the boys have, the team has plans to go to St. Louis. We're going to win our way there. And in so doing, it's going to cost money to get there. We need money to register. We need money to fly there. We need money for lodging. A lot of that's going to come from fundraising efforts that the team involves themselves in. And I really don't want to use the Best Buy money for that, but to supply some added funds if we need it. All too often, gifts are given, and you buy T-shirts and things of that sort, and it gets lost. We're leaving a legacy, and that's what we're going to do with their money. Can you say anything? Any questions?
Great. Are there any questions first from the board? Okay, Mr. Snyder.
So what process do you use to engage to get this grant? I mean, what are the steps you go through? How do you get exposed to it?
Yeah, you go.
Okay, our young Our youngest son, Dan, last year worked for Best Buy. And his boss told him about this fund, and we applied. And we just said, okay, sure, we'll put down $9,000. Why not? And we're very shocked last year when we got it. And we applied again this year. He no longer works there, but they still know him, and they gave it to us again this year. So that's how we filled out it. We had to fill out an application, what we're going to do with the money. They're big into technology in youth, and the whole company is doing a lot of money towards the youth in technology all across the country. And in New Hampshire, we just fit that niche that they were trying to fill, and they also knew our son and knew what we had done with the money last year.
Any other questions from the board? I have one, and it's simply, are there any requirements of the grant in terms of things that need to be followed up on, or any contingencies associated with the grant?
Nothing came with this year's letter. Last year, they wanted a report.
Okay.
And basically, before I could apply for this year's, I had to do a report from last year's.
Okay.
But nothing came in the envelope that I know of this year, but we will do the same thing, give them a report. And like you said, two of the employees came to visit the
Bless you.
school, and they already want to know when our events are so that they can come and see it in action.
That's great.
So.
Are there any comments or questions from the public? Okay. Seeing none, I will say thank you, and I would ask simply if you could hang around until we get through item number 5 on our actual board meeting agenda. That would be great in case there are any questions that arise. But wonderful. Thank you for everything that you do, but in particular for following up on this grant. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And then the second gift that we'll review in the public hearing is a gift of $10,000 from Parents and Teachers Together, or PAT, to James Mastrocola Elementary School. I'll invite to the table Principal Emily Carter of James Mastrocola Elementary School and Ms. Tracy Beauregard, the PAT president. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, first I'd like to say thank you. It is green.
Yeah.
I first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having us here this evening. We're very excited to be here. You did introduce Tracy Beauregard. She is the president of our PAT group at Mastrocola Elementary School. And our small team of volunteers have really worked very hard over the last several years, raising funds and earning money to put towards technology in our building. The focus for the $10,000 is going to be on purchasing iPads that will be implemented into the classrooms, and that's really our thing. And as I said, the PAT has done a lot of fundraising, and so I think I'll ask Tracy maybe just to share a few things, some of our better fundraisers, our bigger fundraisers, with you.
Wonderful.
So just so it's clear also, this like Mrs. Carter said, this is over the last couple of years. This wasn't just a really good year last year. This was over the last couple of years. This is my 3rd year on the board. And we do a combination of kind of some standard fundraisers, like a catalog fundraiser, which seems to bring in a lot more money. And we also want to combine it with community events. We were just at the high school on Saturday doing our Breakfast with Santa, which had a dark spot in it with the power outage in the middle of it. So that was kind of interesting, but it was great because it's we like to do things like that, like the Breakfast with Santa. We do bingo night, usually in every February. We do ice cream social is usually in October. We like to do the community ones, which don't necessarily make as much, but it's really nice. The kids love seeing teachers, principals. They love seeing that. So we like to combine it with that, with the better, I guess, fundraisers, the ones that yield more money for us. So it's great. We have a great PAT board. We have a lot of really dedicated parents that help out a lot and like to do it. So
That's wonderful.
Yes, so if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to.
Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Schneider?
Is there any particular, you talked about iPads in the classroom, is there a particular focus of them? I mean, $10,000 can buy a lot of iPads, but probably not enough to put one in everybody's hand by any stretch. So
No.
is there a particular class or topic or something?
Well, the thing that we really like about the iPads is that they're so versatile. We have the Mimeo Teach Bars that we've been bringing into the classrooms, and so those actually those can control the Teach Bar, as well as be a document camera. And then also, really, our primary focus is to have small groups for students. So we'll start to build up the grade level groups of iPads, and the teachers can share them and use them for their instruction or for math skills building or writing. There's some wonderful apps that we have that really are very motivating for the children. And, motivation equals more practice time and better success. So we've found that they've been a really useful tool for the children in the school.
Vice Chair Barnes?
With some of your curriculum objectives, are you going to be needing any types of specific software to the iPads or apps that would be of cost to the district to be able to support some of those objectives?
Well, we already have quite a large bank of apps, and our ETI and then our librarian manage those apps for us. And as teachers find new apps that have been effective or new ones that come out, we vet those through them, and then Nancy Rose helps to purchase a group of them. So yes, there may be additional cost with that.
Okay.
Mr. Marcus?
And out of the money from the grant, that was all going to be spent towards iPads and any related technology costs that arise? There was nothing else in the scope of the grant?
No, it
All
would
right.
be towards iPads, and then we would need to purchase the protective cases for them
Yeah.
because we're elementary. Well, I think you'd need them through high school as well because accidents do happen. So we would definitely need to purchase the really sort of rough and tumble cases for them to keep them safe.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Vice Chair Barnes?
I didn't want to take it off without a comment, and that is that I've been on the parent-teacher group for a number of years, the district parent group with Marge, and the work that all these parent groups do throughout the district is just it's such a quantifiable impact to the operations of our schools, and to have a public hearing on this gives a real light to all the efforts that you make. So, but know that every school does have that infusion that the parent groups bring to that school with things like artists and residents, et cetera, throughout the district, and they're just unsung heroes in this district. So I have the privilege of getting to work with you guys on that group, the district parent group, and I see the hard work that you do and the dedication and the passion that you have for it, and it's not going unnoticed, and this is a great venue to be able to really, really expose that. So thank you very much.
thank you.
Ditto. Are there questions or comments from the public? Okay. I would echo what Vice Chair Barnes said. I guess Santa didn't bring Rudolph to the high school, otherwise the power outage wouldn't have been an impact. What a wonderful, generous gift. You've got to sell a lot of crafts, cookies, etc., to raise $10,000. And so the effort behind this has not gone unnoticed, and your generosity is much, much appreciated. So before I close the public hearing, likewise, I would just ask if you can stay until agenda item number 5 in our meeting agenda in case there happen to be any follow-up questions. But thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so with that, we will close the public hearing, and in about a minute, we will start the school board meeting. Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Merrimack School Board this Monday evening, December 7th, 2015. I'd ask that you rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin, I have two quick announcements or comments. The first is to personally thank Vice Chair Barnes for chairing the last meeting in my absence. It was a very long, full meeting and very well run, and so I very much appreciate that. And secondly, I would like to announce that Jacob Marcus, our student representative, has been selected to represent the state of New Hampshire in the United States Youth Program. It's a phenomenal achievement. He will be one of 2 students from the state of New Hampshire participating in this week-long event. And let me just tell you what it is. The United States Senate Youth Program is a unique educational experience for outstanding high school students interested in pursuing careers in public service. The annual program this year will be held in Washington, D.C., March 5th to March 12th of 2016. As I mentioned, 2 student leaders from each state will spend a week in Washington experiencing their national government in action. Student delegates will hear major policy addresses by senators, cabinet members, officials from the Departments of State and Defense, and directors of other federal agencies, as well as participate in a meeting with a justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. All transportation, hotel, and meal expenses are provided by the Hearst Foundations. In addition, each delegate will also be awarded a $5,000 college scholarship for undergraduate studies, with encouragement to pursue coursework in history and political science. So to those of us who share this table with Mr. Marcus, this comes as no surprise that he has received this recognition. It's very well deserved, and we're very proud of him, and we congratulate you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now that I've embarrassed the student rep, I will move on to item number 2 in the agenda. Approval of the November 16th, 2015 minutes. Is there a motion? Made by Vice Chair Barnes. Is there a second? Mr. Schneider. Any amendments? corrections? Seeing none, we will put the minutes. Wow, this is a first.
18 pages.
Great job, Rose. Wow. Wow, not even a they or there. Wow. I'm impressed. Okay, so we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the November 16th, 2015 minutes as submitted signify by saying aye. Opposed, none, and the chair abstains. So that motion carries 4-0-1 with the chair abstaining. Wow, that was impressive. And that takes us to item number 3 on tonight's agenda, public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board. All we ask is that you come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone looking to address the board under public participation? Seeing none, we will close public participation and move to item number 4, acceptance of gifts or grants under $5,000. Business Administrator Matt Chevenel.
Thank you very much. This evening we have for your consideration to James Mastrocola Elementary School a gift from Shaw's Supermarket of $400. This is on the We Love Our Schools program to invest in the education and future of students throughout the New England area. You know, aptly and appropriately, this could be used to purchase the apps and protective covers for the iPads that we were just talking about earlier. So, $400 to James Mastrocola Elementary School. Thank you.
It's a windfall tonight for MES. Is there a motion? Mr. Powell.
I move that we accept the gift from Shaw Supermarket with our gratitude.
And a second, made by Ms. Guagliumi. All those in favor of accepting the gift from Shaw's Supermarket in the amount of $400 to James Mastrocola Elementary School with our gratitude, signify by saying aye. Opposed? None. And what is the student rep's opinion?
In favor.
Thank you, sir. And that will take us to item number 5, Board's response to acceptance and expenditure of gifts or grants over $5,000. Is there a motion? Vice Chair Barnes.
I move that we accept the grant from Best Buy Foundation to Merrimack High School in the amount of $10,000.
Okay. Is there a second? Made by Mr. Powell. Any discussion?
I think it's absolutely proof of a very successful and grounded program in the school community. It really does show that it's a good investment in Merrimack when you invest in Merrimack, and they are continuing to support us with funds because we do prove our worthiness in how we use and participate with the First Robotics organization. So I think this is very exciting. 2 years in a row, the Petroviches, we cannot thank you enough for all that you do for that program. You are definitely staples of the Chop Shop, and we look forward to another good year with you.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the $10,000 gift from Best Buy to Merrimack High School signify by saying aye. Opposed? None. That motion carries 5-0-0. And what is the student rep's opinion?
In favor.
Thank you, sir. And is there another motion? Mr. Schneider.
I move that we accept the gift, or I assume it's a gift, not a grant, from the parent and teachers together from the Mastrocola Elementary School in the sum of $10,000.
And that is seconded by Vice Chair Barnes. Discussion?
Yeah, as we spoke about in the public forum, it's great the effort that you guys put towards taking all your fundraising and over the years and combining it together. This is very useful, as Principal Carter discussed, in terms of the iPad usage within the different rooms. So we certainly appreciate all the effort, all the work, investing back into the schools, and I'm sure they'll make good use of them. So.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the $10,000 gift from the Parents and Teachers Together organization to James Mastrocola Elementary School signify by saying aye. That motion carries 5-0-0, and the student rep.
In favor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. And that will take us to item number 6. Board's response to Speak Up survey on technology in schools. I will invite to the table our Director of Technology, Library, and Media Services, Ms. Nancy Rose. Good evening, Nancy.
Good evening. So I haven't ever done a request for a survey before, so I'll just give you a brief overview. I sent the information. I hope that everybody had a chance to look. The Speak Up survey is administered by the Project Tomorrow, which is a nonprofit. It's a collective of some different they're companies that are interested in technology, but they're also doing this they're doing the survey to provide information back to the stakeholders in education technology. So they do the survey, they then share that information with the participating groups. So it's state level, district level, school level. And so I would like to participate. The state has promoted the participation for several years. The State Education Technology Directors Association promotes the participation in the survey. And because they survey the community, parents, students, staff, teachers, and the whole group, they get a really round set of results back on the information that comes back. So then this year the themes are broad: teaching and learning with technology, math and STEM, professional development for teachers specifically, the administrative challenge of more technology in schools, parent concerns, funding, online assessments, emerging technologies, preparing students for the 21st century. So it's a very broad approach to looking at what technology is in schools, what people wish for, what people have fears about. So, and then once the survey is done, we will have access to our data, the state will have access to the New Hampshire data, and then that can really be valuable for making decisions. And we've never really had a voice other than sort of here in the committee work. So I'm just requesting the permission to conduct the survey. It's open now and it ends on December 18th. So as soon as possible, I'd like to be able, if we approve, I'd like to move forward with promoting it, hopefully by school messenger through the district website. We can post it and do it on announcements in the schools because students are encouraged to participate.
Willing to take a few questions?
Sure.
Wonderful. Ms. Guagliumi.
You said this survey is something that's been out there over the last couple of years. Is that correct?
Yeah, it goes back several years. I'm not quite sure how many. But.
Are you familiar with how other districts have used the survey and what they've gotten out of it?
The feedback that I've gotten is it's very useful to get a voice from all the stakeholders, so more of a parent voice, student voice. It helps them sort of figure out if they've got limited funds, if there's an interest in priorities in different areas, if there's concerns. So help in making decisions, especially when you're looking at budgets and limits. If you go gangbusters on a big initiative that you don't have a lot of community support behind, it can help avoid that.
Okay, no. I find it very interesting. I'm very supportive of technology in education in our district. And I'm also very supportive of getting feedback from, from various stakeholders. So, thank you.
Mr. Schneider.
So, I'm assuming the survey is a completely anonymous survey. I mean,
yeah, you log in as what kind of a stakeholder you are.
What kind of a stakeholder? But it understands you're from Merrimack, though.
Yeah, you log in, you go and you select your district, and then you can select your school, and then your role. I think that's the order that it goes in.
Okay. Now, the other thing is you talked about the different ways you're going to notify. Do those notifications go that parents can see them as well?
Well, if we post it on the website and do a school messenger message, that's the text now, isn't it? Or phone?
Text, phone, and email.
Listen to that.
See, not being a parent for the last year of a student in the district, it's, wow, these newfangled technology alerting parents.
We can set you up to get those early morning phone calls.
Yeah, no, I think we'll
that's a good
bypass
idea.
on the 5 o'clock or whatever calls. But Okay, that was those were my questions. Thanks.
Any other questions? Vice Chair Barnes.
Are we looking, I know we're looking, this is the first year, and I'm going to start with a comment, and that is that we've been looking for a way to communicate with parents their needs and desires. I think it's great that students are being asked as well. This is, I think, a great touch point to start the dialogue and get communications open. I think we as a board have always talked about surveying being a valuable part of developing a plan for this district and responding to the need of the people we serve, obviously the students and the parents. And the taxpayer as well. I mean, I have to say, when it comes to technology and we're asking and we're surveying stakeholders, one of the stakeholders is the taxpayer. Unfortunately, I don't think they do get an opportunity to speak in this. But, you know, when you look at, you could just be a resident and be able to.
Community.
I think that's important, and that's something we may want to encourage to extend past what we call the nucleus of communication, which is our website. Maybe even talk to the press about us surveying, because it's all about the investment and what's the return on investment. What are we looking to do with that investment? That's great information, not only by presenting the survey, the objectives of the district, but to get that information back about how important it is to all stakeholders and see what differences of opinion they may have based upon their role, student, parent, teacher, taxpayer with no students in the district. They're all going to have perspective. And I think that's going to give us a very well-rounded idea of what's important to them. And I think, this is a great start. I think we should do it on many other topics as a board, but technology is the backbone of what this community runs on, really, when you consider it. So this is a great start to talk about a bigger conversation. So this is awesome. I'm very happy about this.
Great. Mr. Marcus.
And Ms. Barnes mentioned involving people that can't be reached just through the text, phone, and email. So that would probably take time, and considering you said there's a week and a half until the survey ends, I guess I had a two-part question. First, do you think that in that time we'd be able to gather enough data to show us an accurate picture of the district? And how long is it until the next survey? Is it another year? When does it next open, so we can look at it and have time to present the opportunity to take the survey to as many different people and groups as possible?
I'm hoping that if we use School Messenger with the multiple modalities, we'll reach as many people as possible. So hopefully it's enough to make it meaningful, but because it is a first year, that's always questionable. Sometimes you go over the top with how much participation. So I would be very curious just to see what happens. I think anything that we get is meaningful, and it is an annual survey. So that was one other question that I had, was if we approve the survey this year, is this an annual approval process so we could get into the queue a little faster or earlier?
I mean, typically, when we're being asked to survey students, we require some formal approval. And as well, I think it's probably good practice to come back and ask again in a subsequent year. Questions can change, right? The nature of the survey can change, and the 5 board members sitting here year to year may not be the same and may have a very different perspective on what the community might want or not want in terms of the type of survey. So it's probably not a bad idea to come back and just review. And it might be a good chance to share previous results, right? This year, to Mr. Marcus's point, right? The community audience may be underrepresented because of the specific messaging in the time frame that we're doing to get to teachers, parents, and students. Might be a good way of reading out and also re-upping, as it were. Superintendent.
I was just going to add that normally Director Rose comes and is with us in the summer and does a presentation on technology. So at that point in time, you'd have results from the survey. The new board will be seated, and perhaps at that time we could put that in place so that she is ready to initiate immediately when it becomes open.
Makes sense. Hands up everywhere. Vice Chair Barnes.
I guess the question is, based on Jake's comments, is there an opportunity to just do a quick press release about the survey with a link that could be provided to local media outlets for those in the community that wouldn't be necessarily, tethered to our website for information.
I made a note of that when you mentioned it.
Oh, good.
earlier.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, just the PR Newswire picks it up and it goes to the relevant zip codes. That being said, I think that, do you also have an objective for what you consider a scientific threshold for measurable data? Do you have a goal to say you have enough measurable data based upon the...
Considering it's the first year, I don't have a goal because I don't know how well Merrimack performs in this. And I think any information is useful to see. I think if there's, only a few, then we'll know that that's not something to go by. I know sometimes survey results, even under 25%, are considered reasonable amounts of participation. So because this is at a broad scale and aiming at a fairly wide audience, and it's kind of late in the game, I don't really have a goal more than just to get it started and to see what happens and to set that precedent to keep this discussion open.
Excellent. I just had a question quick of Marge. Every year we do, as part of Safeguard, maybe Andy has the answer as well, we do a survey for middle schoolers. I don't remember always having it come before us for request and approval.
I remember approving it.
Yeah, at one point.
It was done a multi-year. It might have been 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I think Debbie Wolfline assured you of the fact that the range of questions was going to stay the same. It wasn't going to be an appreciable different survey, and I think that's the reason you approved it. But normally, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey changes every so often, given topics they want to assess people on. But in this particular case, she was asking for a multi-year because she had that assurance in dealing with the state. So I'm sure the principle has now changed and so on. So in the future, more than likely, someone will be back to see you.
I saw other hands. Mr. Powell.
I apologize if you already covered this, but is there any cost to the district for this?
No.
How is it paid for?
The agencies that are behind the survey at the national level fund it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Gualiumi.
I agree. I think we'll have to see what the results are and then determine if it's statistically significant from there. So, but I'm excited that we're doing the survey. The other question that I wanted to ask about was the results. So the superintendent had mentioned perhaps this summer, but what I'm wondering are, will results be available before that time, or will there be preliminary results and then a final comparison maybe across other areas, and what does that data look like that we're going to be able to review?
I don't know what it will look like, but I do know that they're saying it will be available in February.
So I'm still.
You still have the floor.
I'm still raising my hand. But so in February, I guess I would like to get some updates on that, particularly if it impacts any budget decisions that we may have, or the public may have, or the budget committee themselves. If data is going to be available, that might impact some things that we're considering. We haven't seen the budget yet, but I would say the sooner that we could get some feedback on that, the better from my perspective.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Powell.
I move that we grant permission to publicize the Project Tomorrow Speak Up survey using the suggestions that were given tonight, and that we waive the 2-week rule so that it can be put out to the public immediately.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barnes. Further discussion? Nope. I think we all see the value. Okay, so with that, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? None. The motion carries 5-0-0. And what is the student rep's opinion?
In favor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Rose.
Thank you.
Good
Have a
luck
good night.
with the survey.
Thank you.
And that will take us to item number 7, Board's response to draft letter to Kinder Morgan regarding land surveys. So at a prior meeting, we had taken a position regarding the nature of, or the conditions under which, and only under which, we would approve Kinder Morgan to conduct surveys on our land as it relates to the Northeast, Northeast Direct Pipeline. A draft of that letter was considered at our last meeting, and I understand as part of following up on that, administration took the feedback that was coming from those discussions and rendered another draft for our review. I will also note the following. You'll see in your packet that the district was in receipt of requests to survey our land. The letters are dated October 13th, but were only received by the school district on November 20th. You'll note the timestamp in the upper right-hand corner. And so what we had considered to be a proactive letter to Kinder Morgan at this point is, I think, our response now to their formal request to survey our land. And so with that, from a content perspective, are there any concerns with the letter as drafted? Mr. Schneider.
Just out of curiosity, was this reviewed by legal at all, or is this just us going through the process to make it clean? I'm just curious.
This is us going through and making the process clean.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious. It looks good from my perspective. So
good. Mr. Powell.
I agree. The letter captures everything that we had talked about the last meeting. The only thing that concerns me is looking through the letter that Tennessee Gas Pipeline sent us, the 4th paragraph. All surveys will be conducted in accordance with the procedures and protocols set forth in various state and federal regulations and guidelines. So it sounds like there's already a process in place that they are required to follow. I don't know if this oversteps that, or if we have the right to overstep that.
As I read that, here's how I read that. What we're talking about is really a process question in terms of granting permission, right?
Right.
In terms of what they do, right? And I think I'm in the section that you're talking, right? To complete the following 4 surveys: civil surveys to locate the potential alignment and construction workspace, archaeological surveys or cultural resource investigations, wetlands and water body delineations, right, and endangered species or rare species surveys.
I see where you're coming from now.
What I read that to be is, here's what we will why we're seeking permission to come on the land, and what we're saying is that's fine as long as you do the following things, right? You submit a formal request. The visit originates at central office. It's attended by members. It's public information, and we can share that information freely because we're stewards of the land for the public, right? But the processes that they follow.
We're talking about once they get on the property.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
That's my read. If somebody has a different opinion, I'm open to it. Ms. Gualiumi.
The only suggested change I might have is because we are now basically sending a response to their request, even though, like you had mentioned, we were trying to be proactive. I might suggest that we might add a sentence in the letter received by the district on November 20th.
Okay. Mr. Schneider.
the letter's dated October 13th, but it's listed as received November 20th.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 6 weeks, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
That's when it arrived. Vice Chair Barnes.
One can speculate that with the changes in path and pattern, that they may have held the card until they need to use it, because they put in the application on the 20th. So they probably sent it to the post office once they made the determination of which route they're going to take.
I was just surprised they didn't bother to redo the cover letter with a more appropriate date.
Gauche, but yeah.
Anyway.
Ms. Guglielmi.
I guess as far as I'm concerned, it's a letter that we received on the 20th. So whatever date they wanted to put on it, or backdate, or however long they held it or didn't update it, as far as we're concerned,
Yep.
it's the date we received the letter.
Yep. Okay, and is the board in agreement in terms of that change? Okay. Is anyone in opposition, I guess? See none. Okay. Mr. Marcus, you had your hand up.
Just going back to Mr. Powell's point a little earlier.
Yes.
Mr. Powell or Mr. Schneider, I can't remember which. Down in the 4th bullet of our letter, in the second sub-bullet where it talks about free to record audio and video these surveys and share them publicly, I would suggest that we just check that that is not in conflict with the rules and procedures that they mention in their letter, because while all of the stuff with request 14 days in advance shouldn't be in conflict with it, if those do stipulate what rights we do have, I'm not necessarily in favor of changing the letter, but I'd just check that that's not in conflict with the rules.
I would prefer for them to tell us they think it's in conflict and then have that discussion rather than seed it and do all that work investigating it. But it's a good point. Mr. Schneider.
Yeah, I brought that up when we first started talking about this because it's possible they use some methodology that is proprietary to them that they wouldn't want recorded or something. So I had the same concern, but from a little different angle. But I think the board agrees that put the stake in the ground and let them come back with a retort if it's inappropriate. So, yep.
Okay. So with that, with the amendment that this letter is in response to their request received on November 20th, 2015, I would like a motion to accept and permission to send this letter in response. Vice Chair Barnes.
I move that we approve the letter with the amended language about receipt of November 20th and send to Kinder Morgan at the first earliest convenience.
Okay. Is there a second? Made by Ms. Guglielmi. Discussion.
Okay.
See none. The only, I just realized I noted something different. Heretofore, we've been addressing the letters to the Vice President of Public Affairs, and I'm just noting that this letter for the request to survey came from John Prue from Northeast Land Services, a contract land agent to the Tennessee Gas Pipeline. Perhaps we need to send the letter to Mr. Prue and a copy to Mr. Ford? Yes, Mr. Prue.
I don't think it would hurt to address it to both of them instead of just a copy.
Okay.
And that way it's guaranteed to get to somebody.
Okay.
I was going to say, that being said, I think the importance is the letter goes to Kinder Morgan, who they contract to do the actual work. It's their survey.
Yep.
And so for that reason, I think we should
Fair
send
enough.
it to them. And we can CC Mr. Prue. I think that's appropriate.
Send it to both. Okay. It will get to both gentlemen. So the motion, yes, Mr. Schneider.
I'm just, the very beginning of it starts off, the letter says, the Merrimack School Board recognizes that Kinder Morgan might be interested in surveying the property. Well, the receipt of the letter says they are interested in surveying the property. So do we want to change that lead-in sentence to say, remove the might be to say is?
Is interested.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Because now that we have a letter, it sort of changes some of the tenses. It might be good just to have somebody make a pass before we sign it off, just to make sure that it's reflecting the actual receipt of a
Yeah.
letter.
I think from a content perspective, we've got it. And so from a word smithing in terms of.
Well, it's more than just the suggested edit. I mean, it's the letter with acknowledgement of the receipt, not only in word but also in tense and things like that. So,
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. So that being the case, there's a motion on the table. Is there further discussion of the motion to accept the letter and send the letter? Okay, seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? None. The motion carries 5-0-0, and the student rep's opinion.
In favor.
Thank you, sir. And that now takes us to item number 8, second review of new policy. Superintendent Chaffrey.
So I want to begin this evening by telling you that this policy is also being reviewed by the leadership team. It went to the leadership team at the same time that you were looking at it. And so the team has offered up some additional suggestions. I chose to bring it back for your second review today, and I will bring it back to you on the 21st of December with their suggestions, with the hope that it be approved on January 4th. So I just wanted to tell you this is going to happen in a couple of stages. So I will go through and I will highlight who asked for what to happen to make sure that I caught everything. Board Member Powell asked to cross out city and insert town because that was more relevant to who we are. Student Representative Marcus asked that we take out, for an example, feces pellets for dissection and put in owl pellets for dissection, or pellets rather than feces, I should say. I actually went through and I was looking at construction of sentence and the way it came across. So you'll see that I have taken the liberty of changing a sentence to say, parents will be contacted to determine if special considerations are needed for children who are immunocompromised, who have allergies, or who have asthma. I want to pause right there because Board Member Schneider asked about adding somewhere in the text that if a person was allergic, that perhaps they could be put in another place in the school. And the reason I've held that out for the moment, I'm highlighting it because I caught that you said it, but some principals also had thoughts on that, so I'm going to take their thought, your thought, and combine it together the next time. Also, if you look down below in item number 10, I took that particular sentence and restructured it so it says, people should wash their hands after contact with animals, animal products, or their environment. If you turn to the second page, Vice Chair Barnes changed a word in the first paragraph, so it says no animal shall be in school unless the teacher involved is familiar with the appropriate care, feeding, and handling of that animal, etc. And then Board Member Powell talked in terms of very frequently parents or other persons might bring an animal onto school property. Therefore, it might make sense to take away the section on unauthorized animals on school grounds because it would not be in our collective best interest. So to this point, I am hoping that I've captured everything that was raised up with the idea that you'll have one more chance to see it with the leadership team's input.
Vice Chair Barnes.
I only have one feedback on number 10, which is new language. It should be people shall wash their hands, because I don't think it should be optional if they've come in contact with animals, if we have the same sensitivity issues. So that's the only thing I saw.
Okay.
Good one. Any other comments or feedback? All right. Yes, Mr. Marcus.
So this wasn't wordsmithing, so please stop me if we weren't looking at content right now. But when we talk about parents will be contacted to determine if special considerations are needed, as I was reading this, I was picturing like elementary schools, maybe upper elementary school, but if the same rule would be enacted at the high school or the middle school, where you'll have about 100 kids passing through the same classroom in one day, I don't really have a suggestion as to what should go there, but I would suggest that people give it thought, because it would be difficult to contact 100 parents and get them all to sign off, or would they just send something out? Would they have to only send it to the class in which the animal is in, to everyone?
I think to respond to you, this was my insert based on what I heard, and I think you will hear something on the 21st of December because Principal Johnson weighed in. He had 2 or 3 thoughts, which are not represented here yet. So I would prefer that you hold off your thought perhaps until the 21st and see if he answers what you're querying.
Great.
Mr. Schneider.
Yeah, just to follow up on that one, because I'm the one that requested the change. My goal was to make it proactive, that we notify that there will be animals, so that either a student or a parent would have the ability to raise an objection or concern if they knew about an allergy. So it'll obviously take different forms depending on the school, but I like the change just because it turned into a proactive rather than a passive. So I'll be real curious to see what his ideas are and stuff. So
Great. Vice Chair Barnes.
It's not about content or wordsmithing at this point, but the question I have for you is, based on the fact we normally have an average of 3 readings to make an adoption, but we've made edits in each meeting, and considering that I think you have some objectives where this policy will be implemented and applied in the school year, what is your timeline sensitivity to get this approved?
So the person that's raising this up is Principal Yarlott. The partnership with the public library will probably be like February. And so my thought was that the 21st of December, I would come back with the leadership team's insight, and January 4th, which is your first meeting, would be hopefully when you might approve it. But we've still got time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you. So now we will move to item number 9, preparation for joint meeting of the Merrimack School Board and Merrimack Town Council, including date, time, location, topics. So at your desk, you will see your packet for Thursday's meeting with the Town Council. The Town Council received the same packet in their mailboxes today. The date and time for the meeting is this Thursday, December 10th at 7 p.m. in this room. And just a note about seating arrangements. I shared with Town Council Chair Nancy Harrington that we've met in this room as a joint body once before and tried a seating arrangement that had chair and vice chair of the respective governing bodies at this table with administration and town staff and then board members at tables. And that I thought we would try something different this time. It may work, it may not work. And that is that I noticed when the town council held the Kinder Morgan meeting, at which they invited the chair of the school board, village district, and conservation commission, including assistant town manager Paul McCallie. We had 11 at this table, and that having 12, while it might be a little cozy, is not impossible, that we sat at that table relatively comfortably. And so that the 2 bodies could sit at this table, and that staff and the student rep might sit out in front. And so she was amenable to trying that. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, the next time the bodies get together, we can try something different. And so the topics for the meeting are that Tim Thompson from the Community Development Office will be sharing the plans that are being proposed to the planning board that might have an impact on school populations in terms of housing starts that are there and the nature of the buyers and what that means in terms of school-age children, et cetera. And I thought that that would be a valuable update for both bodies. The second topic for discussion is the Merrimack Safeguard and the sustainability funding of the SRO position at the middle school. And then lastly, the O'Gara Drive property in particular as it relates to the tennis courts, but longer term, the easement agreement that also houses the basketball, skate park, and rink. So that is all in your packet, and if there are any questions, let me know. Mr. Powell.
Well, I can take care of your seating problem. I don't know where I was when we talked about the date of this meeting, but I realized that I have a previous business engagement that night, so I won't be attending.
Understandable. Thank you. Well, that does make for a little more elbow room. Yeah, maybe Jake can move up. Wonderful. Any other questions or comments? Wonderful. I'm looking forward to the meeting. And that will now take us to item number 10, overview of the proposed 2016-2017 school district budget. Superintendent Chaffrey.
Thank you. So, as you know, and as I point out every year, we've been, when I say we, the leadership team has been working on preparation of the budget since September. And we have used a number of tools to help us. Obviously, the board's budget message is terribly important, as well as the district logic model, the district's technology plan, the enrollment projection reports, the capital improvement plan, furniture replacement plans, and then, as I point out, multiple conversations. The items that are yet to be determined are the collective bargaining agreement with the Merrimack Teachers Association. That is ongoing as I speak, and so that is yet to be known. And Matt and I conferred about a possible warrant article we want you to give some thought to. You might recall that in our immediate past, the last 4 years, we have had to go to the Capital Reserve Fund at least 3 times because something anticipated or an emergency repair has needed to be done, be it bleachers, malfunctioning of a phone system, or whatever. And to that end, we have been able to come to you and ask if we could tap into that fund. We're now sitting at about $75,000, and we feel that that's just too low an amount. So we want to come back to you, and we'll leave it to your discretion to come up with an amount. We'll offer opinion, but we would like you to really think about that. That just is a protective thing for our future. You will also see when you get your booklet tonight that there is a cut list in that booklet, and it really is representative of some of the bigger items. We sit with Director Tuso and talk about a lot of things pertinent to various buildings, be it cafeteria tables at James Mastercola Elementary School, air conditioning at certain places in the high school, window replacement, whatever it be. You will see that list. Those things were all discussed by us, and either you move them on the capital improvement plan or we determined that they were just not for this year. But you will see the rendering. When we look at enrollment, we continue to decline. We're not declining as much as we once were, but you will see overall we're planning on a minus 84 students. Let me tell you that the greatest loss will be at the elementary level, and I'm talking specifically about the 3 elementary schools, pre-K to 4, minus 53 to be exact, minus 36 at the upper elementary school, minus 4 at the middle, minus 27 at the high school, pardon me, plus 36 when it comes to preschool. Preschool is a growing area, and next year, Director Fabrizio is planning on 135 students in total. And also in this particular category, we also look at out-of-district placements. He is planning on those growing from 25 to 30. So when you do all of the mathematics, you come up with a minus 84 students. Also, for the first time in all the time since we've been involved with kindergarten, which would be 11 years, the cohort is going to be less than 200. It's going to be 184. We think that has implications for the future. I've spent time talking especially to NESDEC, the demographer there, and Dean Minchner does the work for us for the New Hampshire School Boards Association. So we're just not having that many births 5 years out, and the immigration is limited. So I'm going to be very interested in what Tim Thompson says on Thursday night, because that talks about our future, and I'm very hopeful about that. So I think the board expects that we will always look at what's happening with the enrollment and make modifications that we think are in order. At the same time I tell you that, one of the things that I take pride in is putting the 3 elementary schools, pre-K to 4 or K to 4, up, if you will, on the board, and working with the 3 principals and take a look at making sure that we have equity across the board. If they're within 2 or 3 students per class, that's fine, but sometimes in order to do that, you will see that we transfer positions from one building to another, and that allows us to keep us, if you will, equalized. So this next year, some of that will go on. There will be movement, and I talk about that in my message. But in addition to that, we feel the need to eliminate 1 first-grade position from Reeds Ferry Elementary School. And even with that elimination, the ratio in first grade will be 17 to 19 to 1. So there are still very, very good numbers. Likewise, I pointed out that there's a minus 36 students at the upper elementary. I've conferred with Principal McGill. We feel that we can eliminate 1 sixth grade teaching position. When we do that, the ratio at that grade level will be 24 to 25 to 1, which again, we think is a very good number. When we come to the high school, the minus 27 really, if you will, represents a class, because I use between 25 and 30 to make that decision. And in conferring with Principal Johnson, the area that we feel the eliminating of a teaching position is doable is in art. Currently we have 4 art teachers, so in 16-17 we would have 3. In addition to the decline, and by the way, the high school is slated to be at 1,197 students, which is lesser than 1,200. So we've gone over time from 1,688 down to 1,197. So you can see that move that was going on at the elementary has rolled up, if you will, to the high school. The other thing that's happened in art is that the classes have become much more specialized as compared to generalized, so fewer students take them because they're very special. There's good to that, but it also is limiting in the numbers that seek those courses out. One of the good things is you have agreements with 2 major groups, with the Merrimack Educational Support Staff Association. The second year of a 3-year agreement is already represented in the budget. Likewise, you have gone through the advise and confer process with the administration. They have a 3-year agreement with you, so next year in the budget reflects the second year of that agreement. I want to say here, when I get into health coverage, I really want to commend Matt, because he's done a lot of work. You know, what we learned is that next year we were going to have a significant increase in health. It's going to be 12.2%, and I think that just took us all aback. But what he did was he went through very carefully and looked at all of our staff, the demographics of all of our employees, and considered the buyouts and so on. Rather than get general about it, he got very specific about it. And with that study, the difference in cost is going to be about $295,000. We thought it was going to be much more than that. But because of the shift in plans, because of the buyout and so on, it still is a good amount of money. And it's not as much as we once thought. So that is extremely helpful to this budget. We're very pleased that the New Hampshire retirement rate is going to stay exactly the same for the 16-17 year. Again, that's very helpful. The rate for professional staff is 15.67%, and for classified staff, 11.17% of salary. The good thing, though, is it stays the same. We've talked to you about the retirement incentive. We had 27 people apply for that. We know you will take care of 7 by contract, so that is also, of course, a major part of the budget. When we get into classroom and instructional focus, every single school principal has a replacement plan for furniture, so you're going to see a little bit represented in each of the buildings. So it will either be student chairs, desks for students, teacher chairs, lab stools. You will see some individual cafeterias, for example, at the high school or the upper elementary, maybe an oval table, a round table, as compared to the wall units that you're used to buying in mass. This is just for 1 or 2 tables and bookcases. You're also going to see recommendations for a number of textbooks. At the high school level, you heard the Social Studies Department Chair come before you and talk in terms of course offerings are being changed. He's putting different things in place. And so when you make these different changes, you're going to see we need additional textbooks. World Studies texts for 9th graders who now all need to take that. And also a new advanced placement course in world history, and in science, textbooks for advanced placement in honors chemistry, which I'm very, very pleased about. Director Rose, who you saw tonight, has been working very closely with all of the administrators in each of the buildings, and I'm pleased to tell you that educators are just coming forward in mass with software that they want to get engaged in, looking at their course offerings and seeing what is a good match. And to that end, you're going to see an increase in site licenses and also in added software. Nancy is very deliberative about what's purchased. You have to go through her standard to be able to get it within the budget. But I do want to tell you that expenditure is closely watched and we think is a very good investment. I should probably highlight with a couple of stars that the administration is very hopeful that we'll be able to put preschool at Thorntons Ferry Elementary School next year. You will see a reference to that in Director Fabrizio's budget. This last year, you had to go forward, and we used a capital reserve fund in special ed to hire a full-time teaching position and a part-time teaching position and the accompanying paras, because the population is growing, and even though you didn't want to move the program, we still needed to get those additional staff members and put them at Mastrocola Elementary School. Our intent would be to take those personnel and just move them 1.5 to Thorntons Ferry, move the classroom furniture that goes with it to Thorntons Ferry. So the biggest outlay that you would have next year, or the new outlay, would be a specific playground. The playground has to, when you're dealing with special ed 2, you have to have equipment that's appropriate for 3- and 4-year-old children. You cannot put them on an elementary playground. And so we have to do the site preparation, the installation of the equipment, and so on. I think the entire outlay, and you're going to see some of the expense in Director Tusso's budget and some of the expense in Principal Bellamere's budget. I think that playground and site work is about $36,000. But that is a major goal for all of us. We really are very hopeful that will happen because we want to see a preschool in each neighborhood school.
Go ahead.
On that note, we already furnished the furniture for the classrooms based
Correct.
on that additional
That
position as well.
was in that
Right.
capital reserve
Gotcha.
fund as well. Thank you. So I think what we would say, Matt and I would say, is the bulk of this budget, because the administration worked very, very hard to try, I don't want to say level funded, but they were very prudent in what they have put here. You're going to see differences and so on. But we looked very carefully at the capital improvements that the board had already approved, meaning the middle school roof, that's already over $1 million, and we know its importance. The HVAC unit at the high school, which is $515,000, which really finishes off a project you began last summer. The 6-lane track with a 2-lane straightaway. We realize with just dealing with our vendor from Maine, who has done all the repairs in the past, that the track really now is in need of replacement. That's $430,000. So that's here in the operating budget. And lastly, it was thought that we needed to look at paving at the high school, separate O'Gara Drive from the roadway in the front of the building all the way around the back, which creates the bus loop, and make that a separate project. That project is $227,000. If you take those 4 projects, those CIP projects, that is the bulk of this budget when you sum it up and look at it in totality. So we've been able to put all that in, and now let me tell you where we end up. So this year, 2016-17, proposed administrative budget is $72,752,396. The approved operating budget for this year, 15-16, was $70,667,842. The difference is $2,084,554. So I think you see what I'm saying to you. That $2 million sits right there, basically, as those 4 CIP projects. When you say, well, what is the percentage increase? It would be 2.9%. Matt has also prepared the default budget, and the default budget is $71,466,384. The proposed administrative budget that we're putting forward to you is $1,286,012 more than the default budget. So that gives you a summary of the 16-17 budget.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we have, I saw Mr. Chevenel wheeling in the budget books, which we can pick up after the meeting. Thank you for an excellent summary. And that will now take us to item number 11, tentative school board budget hearing dates. Superintendent.
Yes, so I'm just grappling with my page. And I believe I gave you a calendar for both December and January. Thank you. And what I did after conferring with Chairman Ortega was to call here because the thought was it would be most convenient if we were able to meet here, because then we could have a live transmittal of what you're doing. It has creature comforts, and it just seemed to make best sense. So what I was needing to find out is when was this room available. So I've put down 2 circled dates. You will hopefully be able to deliberate about the budget on the 21st of December. I'm going to talk to you about that on January 4th. So my hope was that perhaps we could have hearings on Thursday, January 7th, and Tuesday, January 12th, with the idea that because we're in session for Martin Luther King Day on the 18th of January, that could be the night when you finalize the budget. So we've really got more time than you had last year. And Matt has talked to Stan Heinrich, who is the acting chair right now of the Budget Committee. And I believe they're soon to come forward, maybe
tomorrow.
With some possible dates so we can get a better calendar. But I would just ask, are those 2 dates appropriate for you or not? Because usually what we try and make sure is that we have a quorum, for sure. So for the 7th, is there anyone that couldn't do it? Yeah. You, Andy?
Mr. Snyder.
We just need to make sure we tell Betsy and the other members of Safeguard that no school board member will be there, because that's a Safeguard meeting night.
Oh, okay.
But
Would they be able to maybe make a change for just that one? Pardon me.
I'll ask offline.
All right.
We will see them Thursday.
Yeah, I know. We could ask them at that meeting or offline, one of the 2.
Okay.
That's the only conflict that I.
And then the 12th is all right? Yeah? Oh, that would be great. All right. Then tomorrow we'll secure the dates for here. So is it appropriate to go just a little further?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So on the 21st, just to set the stage for you, my intent is to have Food Service Director Zeke here on the 21st and Director of Maintenance Tom Tuso. They both are available those nights. What I think would make sense, if you're willing, is to provide questions about those two particular parts of the budget. If you would be so kind to send them to me by December 14th, which gives you a week, if you think that's appropriate. And then I will give those questions to them so that when you come that evening, things that are already on your mind can be more specifically addressed. I think we have found that that's really very efficient, if you're willing to still do that.
And what I would also suggest, even though I will not be able to go and attend the meeting tomorrow of the Budget Committee, but we have found as well that when the Budget Committee, who will also have their books available tomorrow, is able to review and submit questions in advance of the board meeting, it's that much more helpful in the process as well. And so I don't know if someone, actually, Mr. Powell, perhaps you could convey that invitation as well to the Budget Committee to continue that tradition. Yes.
Marge, in keeping with that, would you want the Budget Committee to filter them through the chair of the Budget Committee to bring to you instead of you getting 20?
Yeah, it's very helpful when they come into me, and then I operate kind of like a central hub, and
Sure.
and so on. And also, very often, we'll help the director or the principal if they need to access a resource or whatever. So,
but I think Mr. Powell's question was, do you want questions directly from Budget Committee members, or would you want the chair to funnel them to you?
Yeah, the chair.
Okay.
It would be very helpful.
And I'll give them the same due date, the 14th?
For those two particulars.
Okay,
And
great.
we welcome them to come to this forum. If they want to sit here, we'd love to have them come. I mean, please extend the invitation.
I'll extend the invitation. Liaison assignments should be handed out tomorrow night, but I'm not 100% sure.
And I think the other rule that we've used, though, again, Matt and I haven't spoken because it's really an interim chairmanship, so we're waiting for the chair to be named. But I think it's just very helpful, too, if they will plan on doing the liaison meetings after the board has had its hearing here. So, in other words, if the liaison were named for maintenance, they could go and meet with Tom Tuso after you have your meeting, but not before. So it couldn't happen before December 21st, in other words, because that gives the board the chance to be asking questions, and then the liaisons go after that. That worked out well, too.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
All set? Any
Thank you.
comments, questions? Okay. And that will take us to item number 12, other correspondence. Vice Chair Barnes.
I received a call from a constituent regarding a post that was on Facebook, actually, but it was about a grade that the district received for the B minus comment that you can see on Facebook, which I'm not going to get into. But the person obviously has had people that have gone through the schools and didn't see where there's a lot of defense of what the school does. So about proactive communication, where when we know that kind of stuff is coming out, it's the feedback of, well, why don't we don't have to get into the trenches of Facebook to defend ourselves, but we can communicate broadly about the things that we do and how you take a survey like that or a study like that and how it doesn't really reflect the success of the district and how we truly operate at a high level of performance. So, we don't, the feedback was we don't really show our good news, but from third parties, bad news comes out like that doesn't show us as the best of the best. And we know Merrimack does have a lot of great things to talk about. So just some advice that maybe we want to do something as as a district to really show, other than these board meetings, but really have a communication of what we're doing to deliver a quality public education.
Thank you. Any other correspondence? Okay. Seeing none. Comments? Any comments? Did you have one about? Okay, I thought you had one too. Mr. Schneider.
I was just going to say, Vice Chair Barnes hit the exact nail on the head. I was going to do it on the comment part, but it's interesting when these things come. They get billboarded of the results and where it is, and it creates all kinds of social media debate among taxpayers and stuff. But yet, when things like with the student rep occur and things, we need to, I believe, as a board, and I agree with Shannon on this, a board and a district be much more proactive about getting news out about when these sort of things happen, because it's easy for people to grasp onto the glass half empties. We've got a whole lot of glass half fulls that we can talk about. So I'd like us as an overall
full
district.
glasses.
Full glasses.
Yeah.
Glass. Sorry. You know what I meant, but I said it wrong.
I
right?
do.
Our cup overflowing.
Yes. Thank you. Very good. Pick the
is true.
analogy. But yeah, no. I just want to go on the record also with Vice Chair Barnes about this. So.
Makes sense. Ms. Guagliumi.
And it sounds like with a lot of things coming up that now is time to start to consider a more formal communication plan, a communication committee. And I know several of us have spoken about this, offline of how that might look and be made up. But I think it's not a small task to figure out, if you want to put news out there. I go to the district I grew up in, and I keep in touch with some of their good success stories there. And I see things in Manchester, for example. But it's not a small task. It's a big task, and there's a lot of policies, I think, that have to go with that. And so I think it's worth considering as a district what type of communications we want to put out there and getting stakeholders' involvement in what that looks like.
Sure.
And so,
I mean, if someone is willing to do some of the planning legwork at a minimum to scope what such a committee would do, how it would work, and pull together, the framework that the board could, rather than talking about this big task that we ought to do something about.
I've already done some work like that, as
great.
you know.
Yeah.
So I will put forth some of that
Great.
and speak with the superintendent as well.
Wonderful.
And see
And
if
then
I
we
can
can
bring
get it on
something
an
like that
agenda.
before us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great. Any other comments? Planning board?
I put it under new business.
Oh, okay. Then let's move on to new business.
So the planning board meeting where we're scheduled is December 15th. And I remember before a couple of you said you would be interested in going because that's the night that Matt specifically, he really is the star that evening, and he presents the capital improvement plan. And there are two urgent items on the plan, and so I think it was the thought of the governing board members stressing that this was really, really important. What we've learned that evening is it's a very full evening. At 6 p.m., they're going to have the Flatley site plan reviewed, and at 7 p.m., they have lined up first, the town will go forward with its CIP. I believe we're second, and third is the village district. Is that correct? So I would say we might be on about 7:30, maybe. Would you say 7? Maybe 7:45 or whatever. So, but I tell you that, so you can plan accordingly. So
I'm planning on attending, in particular, to talk about the track, right, and the fact that it's marked as urgent because we can't find a vendor who'll even support the existing track. If there's anybody who's interested in attending as well, let me know. There you go. Any other new business to come before the board? Seeing none, we'll move to item 14, committee reports. Any committee reports? Mr. Schneider.
On December 3rd, which was last week, we had the monthly Merrimack Safeguard meeting. It was mostly done in brainstorming. I mean, there's the agenda topic is coming up for the joint meeting this week, where the Safeguard is going to talk about the grant and how we have to show, be able to move forward beyond the grant in terms of funding the school resource officer at the middle school, but also be able to utilize the funds that get freed up during the end of the grant period. So they brainstormed some ideas of how we could utilize that, looking at some of the different groups. There were some surveys done with the group. One of our actions of the grant was to interview groups, things like parents, educators, healthcare, business, faith, and police. Those were groups that we talked about risk and what it means to be responsible. And we reviewed sort of the results of that and see if we could tie some of the takeaways from being able to potentially use funding and create programs, so sustainability beyond. What you're going to hear about on Thursday is something that was coined, we sort of brainstormed this at the meeting, something called AOK. And of course, I printed off some handouts to hand to everybody, and I promptly left them on the printer at home. So I'll bring them Thursday, so we've got some of them. But really, it's being able to, the concept of making a sort of a judgment-free zone for students and adults. We talked about a lot of the judgments that are passed to people in school, outside of school, that it should be okay to ask somebody a question. Somebody shouldn't feel bad about asking. Somebody shouldn't feel bad about answering. Starting being able to create that sort of cooperation and working collaboratively. So there's a program and some ideas that they're going to float by at the meeting, and then we'll talk about it. Unfortunately, at the next Merrimack Safeguard, we're going to have this meeting that conflicts with it unless we can reschedule. But it was a really good open discussion that we had to come up with some of these ideas. So you'll hear more about that from folks on Thursday night. So.
Great. Any other committee reports? Mr. Powell.
Last Wednesday on the 4th, the Healthcare Cost Containment Committee met, and it was almost an exact duplicate of their presentation to us the week before. Again, just trying to get the message out there as to why the 12.5% GMR is there. And then there was also a presentation on the impact of the Cadillac tax. Again, just trying to get more information out there to as many parties as possible and hopefully filter it down to the building level.
Great. Any other committee reports? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to item number 15, public comments on agenda items. Seeing none, we'll close public comments, take a moment to sign the manifest, and I will entertain a motion to enter non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, subsections A, B, and C. Moved by Vice Chair Barnes, seconded by Mr. Schneider. Ms. Guagliumi, how do you vote?
In favor.
And Mr. Schneider?
In favor?
Mr. Powell?
In favor.
Vice Chair Barnes?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. And so we will enter non-public session. The motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you, everyone. Good night.